Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harpin on Rugby preview show. Joining me to look ahead to Leinster's next outing in the Heineken Champions Cup is someone back for their 44th pod. Welcome back to Mr. Neil Keego Keegan.
How are we? 44. We're in the ice age here. I don't know if it's the same over there. I've got my hoodie on, I've got my dressing gown on, and my Leinster
And
top on. So
and for a second there, you literally froze. So
I
there
do.
you go. That's just how cold it is. No, it's been pretty bad all week. At least it's been bright, but no, it is definitely on the cold side. All right.
Oh
Right.
my
So
goodness, yes.
before we look at our feature match this week, the Six Nations is, of course, just around the corner. Now, we'll be running a little competition for that, by the way. More on that later. But the Irish squad, anyway, was named on Thursday. What did you make of it, Keego? And before I say it, you can make all the gestures and facial expressions you want, because I'm going to put the whole squad over the full screen while we're talking about this. So go right ahead and do whatever you want.
I love it. It's a team of form and giving a couple of spankings to a couple of players, just to see how they react to it. I'm delighted for Ross Byrne. I'm delighted for Crowley putting the green tracksuit on for a second. Obviously, the back row, you could have picked any of 15 players in there. Second row, I'm happy with. That's the only place I'm slightly worried about, because especially with Leinster, you see the job Jenkins does in that position. And you see what happens when he's not there. They kind of target that kind of diagonal line through our scrum. And I know Ryan has stepped up quite a bit, but it's Hendo's got a big job to do. Tyke Byrne maybe has a big job to do in terms of scrummaging. That's my big worry. But I love the squad. I love the balance of it. We've had Ringrose captaining Leinster all the way through this season. That's another leader again on the pitch. Keith Earls is going to be there. I've nothing bad to say about him. I think it's a brave squad. Injuries aside, I think it's quite brave.
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic thing. Whenever a squad gets named, there's always a varying opinion, say the least, and it makes a great discussion point. But I mean, the bottom line is we all have our squad. We're not the ones paid to do it, and plus, we're not the ones watching them train. We're not the ones with the plan going forward for the World Cup. So he's doing what he wants. There's also the added thing where the Six Nations these days, this isn't necessarily the only players that are going to be involved in the competition.
Spot on.
We're going to have two matches, first against Wales and France. I think this is the squad for those two games. Then we're going to reassess, see where we're at. We're going to have Italy, then a break, and then Scotland and England. And I think we're going to be taken in those blocks of those weeks, and we'll see what the squad is going to. Obviously, the big one is against France. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and obviously the big thing is Joey being left out. But if you look at how Munster are, I've started to become a Munster supporter now, which ruins our entire gimmick. But you see what they're doing; they're starting to turn around. So it means he's going to have more game time, more starts in a team that is performing, which is very different over the last 2 years. So that's going to help him going into the second half of the Six Nations. There's a lot of words going around like axed or gotten the bullet and all this sort of stuff. There's it's none of that, because it started under Joe, and we've spoken about it for years. It's very rare that there's a starting 15 3 games in a row. You know what I mean? It's like you make a game plan per opposition. Joey may slip in down the line, but it's nothing to worry about. It's all positive. It's all good.
Yeah, you have to remember, like, it's not just about whether or not they're selected in the team. It's the whole experience of being at the training camp as well. And with this formation, just talking about the tens, you've got Sexton, Ross Byrne, and Jack Crowley. Crowley's going to be there now, and he's going to be training. He's going to be, without Carberry there, knowing Carberry's at back with Munster, it's going to help Crowley as well. He's going to be more involved in what's going on in the training sessions and stuff. And I'd be surprised if we don't see Carberry involved somehow in the squad throughout over the 7 weeks. So it's not, you can talk about dropped acts and go through all these dramatic things, but you got to look at the long-term picture. And I mean, you have to believe in what this squad has done over the past year or so, and just expect more, going forward. So we definitely wish them all the best. Okay, so now it's time to start harping on this week's feature match, which, as you can see there above, is Leinster versus Racing 92. It's in round 4 of the 22-23 Heineken Champions Cup, and it kicks off at the Aviva Stadium at 3:15 p.m. on Saturday, January 21st. The match is being broadcast on RTE2 and BT Sport 2. Leinster named their starting lineup at lunchtime on Friday, so let's have a look, starting with the back line. At fullback is Hugo Keenan. The wings are Jimmy O'Brien and Jordan Larmour. Centres, Jamie Osborne and Gary Ringrose, who's the captain. And fullbacks, the halfbacks are Jemison Gibson Park and Ross Byrne, pretty much the same as last week.
Yeah, here we go. With all the excitement of the big announcement yesterday, Ross Byrne starts again. We say it every week: death, taxes, Ross Byrne. I think it's great to get a few minutes in to give some Parks heels as well, and obviously Ringrose back in. Again, I don't know. Ringrose has played a lot of games. Sheehan has played a lot of games, so Kelleher's in there for him. But there's a lot of players with a lot of minutes in the boots at this point in the season, and I only started realizing that as we read through the squad yesterday. Um, you know, Ringrose a lot of minutes in there, but he's obviously a leader. They obviously see something for him. Keenan was majestic last week. Love to see Larmer getting in there as well. Jamie Osborne, what a player! And you could put him anywhere. Someone put up a clip of his very first professional rugby game against, I can't remember the Welsh team. He's on the pitch, player number 23, first impact in the game at a professional level at the age of 19, was pushing their hooker, you know, 20 yards backwards. So it's great that he's getting a start. What a selection! If the
Yeah.
biggest worry is how many minutes are in the boots, that's a great problem to have.
Absolutely. And just on Jamie Osborne there, like he was, as we all know, he was star of the match last week, deservedly so, against
Mm.
Gloucester. He was immense. But this season, his appearances, I'm making this to be his 10th appearance of the season, but it's the first time he's worn the same number of jerseys 2 appearances in a row. It's like reading his appearances. It's like I'm expecting someone to shout bingo when I read these out. He's gone 13, 11, 15, 12, 23, 12, 23, 13, 12, and now 12 again. So he's very he might be falling into that versatile trap, but eventually he's got to find his best position. And we saw a really good performance from him last week. And of course we've got that big left boot coming out as well, so it's going to be really handy for us. Okay, we're going to move on to the forwards now, and as you can see there, the front row is Andrew Porter, Ronan Kelleher, and Michael Alatoa. Second row, Joe McCarthy and James Ryan, and a back row of Cleon Doris, Josh Vanderflair, and Jack Conan.
Great to see Jack Conan starting the game. I think the big issue is going to be down that 3-4 area again. I think a lot of teams are going to look at that last week and relatively recently without Jenkins in the team, and obviously without the big man in the team as well. There is a perceived issue there. It is a good scrum and all that sort of stuff, but there is a slight weakness going through that diagonal line in the scrum, and they're going to aim for that again. Big job to be done by Joe tomorrow. Now, Gina, I've lost control of the days. Al Alatoa, again, we keep saying it. He does a different job. He plays a different game. He doesn't do anything badly. We just need him to get his feet under him a little bit more and kind of shore up that side of the scrum. Porter has a huge amount of minutes in the boots as well, so you're kind of expecting that he will kind of be brought ashore pretty soon into the game, and we'll get into the bench. It's a pretty good bench popping on as well.
Yeah, I mean the scrum has been, if you had to pick a weak spot in Leinster over the past while, it would have been in the scrum. But we've had comments like Mark Jackson was saying on the pod how you might have struggle in the scrum, but it's not the most. It may not be the most important set piece anymore, especially if you're excelling in so many other areas that you can negate any problems, especially defense, that arise from those scrums. But it still would help to shore up that front row. And probably most teams now will probably put out their best scrums against us to try to get an edge. So we'll see how they work out. And it's an interesting little adaptation to the back row as well. We keep talking about how can you leave out a three times capped Lion from your back row. So Jack Conan comes in, and a little bit of a different balance with Doris going over to 6, but it still looks awesome. And we'll see how they get on. Also, good to see Joe McCarthy back in action. This will be a good game for him to show the Aviva Stadium crowd exactly what it can do. He's a very confident player, very confident on the ball, especially holding the ball, running and offloading, and all those extra little elements you don't expect from a second row. So would be interested to see that. Okay, on to the bench now, and it is Dan Sheehan, Michael Milne, and Cian Healy. Ross Maloney and Ryan Baird are the other forwards. Well, they're not just the other forwards, because it's a 6-2 split. Scott Penny is at 23, with the only backs being Luke McGrath and Harry Byrne.
Yeah, what a bench. You know what I mean? Milne's been doing a job. Healy's obviously 150 years of age and still doing the job. Sheehan, we've almost got to try and keep him off the pitch. He's doing so much. He'll probably start doing a few laps before he comes on. But what a front row to pop on. Ross Maloney, he didn't do too much wrong. The only issue, and again, watching it from the couch, the game is easy, but the only issue is when we're packed down in that scrum, and it's not one person's fault. An amalgamation of issues. But Ryan Baird's right there. Luke McGrath is hungry to get back into that jersey, and it's great to see Scott Penny starting to come back, starting to getting some game time, starting to get that 23 jersey because I can't remember what the injury was, but he was on a roll before that injury kicked in, and now he looked very strong. What was the game we were at? Was it the Connacht, whatever the last game in the RDS where
Yeah,
he had a good
Connacht.
chunk of time on? He was very impressive.
Yeah, definitely. And you wonder what the thinking behind the 6-2 split is. Is it for this opposition, or is it to get us used to it? Because we talk about the more physical games deeper into the competition. So is it maybe we run a 6-2 split bench here just to get the hang of it, the hang of playing with it, so that we might need it going into the last 8, last 4, hopefully, going down the line. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, now we move on to our opposition, which as you can see there is Racing 92. The graphics department has always put the names on the screen there, or if you're listening to the podcast, they can be found in the program notes. Now, normally you can tell what time the lineup of top 14 is going to have going by their next domestic match. But given they host La Rochelle, but they're hosting La Rochelle at home next weekend, and this is still a pretty strong team, Keego.
Yeah, it is. We've got to be honest here. Racing aren't the powerhouse they used to be. They still do a job. They still have big players ready to rock. And there's always that target on that blue jersey, which kind of gives you that extra 5 to 10%. They're not messing around. They're here to go for us. They're here to take a shot. So it's like we always say, they're going to come at us early. We're either going to have to attack them early or hold them out early. But there's a lot of great players on there. I do think their 4 and 5 are gonna not fancy their chances, but I do think they are going to go for our second row. They're gonna just try and disrupt the line out. Line out and scrum is where they're going to aim at. Around the field, okay, there's a lot of class around there, obviously. But in terms of if you're picking one squad, as we always say, it's only that second row really that you're going to go. Okay, it's at least parity here.
Yeah, I mean, the key to Leinster's performances, I think, is that, especially in Europe, you do notice when they go into Europe, you do notice they tend to raise their standards. You can get it just an air off the way they present themselves on the pitch and everything, that they're at a different level. This is Europe. This is the serious. This is the big time, and they do raise that. So once they do attain those levels, you have to fancy them. But if they do make mistakes, if there are errors of decision making or just basic skills or any kind of accuracy going awry or scrums even, you look at this Racing team and they've definitely got players there who can hurt you. Finn Russell is just exactly the type of player who in a split second can get you from one end of the pitch to the other. And they've other players as well. This guy Max Springs on the bench, number 23, yep. He's real strong, real good in broken play. So you don't really want to be giving them any kind of chances. They're going to get the win. They want to get the maximum points. They definitely want to wrap it up early. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the officials, which, as you can see there, it's Matthew Carley holding the whistle. It's an all-English team there, so that's who's going to be the officials. The weather for Dublin is predicted mostly cloudy, 25% rain. We're going to have to wait and see if it's cold like this. But once it's dry, I'm fine with it. We just wrap up and we'll be fine. But looking forward to a good day in the afternoon and the Aviva Stadium. Yeah.
Sorry, I have this written down and I don't know if I should say it out loud. Okay, but there's and it's obviously it's nothing bad.
Holding my hand over the editing button. Let's say.
Yeah. It might be a really long beep here, but no, we've got to understand where we are at this point in the season. We've got to understand where we are in relation to the final target, which is that big game in Dublin. We can't avoid speaking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think the way things are going, we are on track. We are on target. You see the games we've had in the RDS where we've come back or whether we've demolished people. There's been a better mixture of that this year than previous years. So the lads are ready to fight. They're ready to rock. This is another big moment in the year because obviously if there's a big score and we turn them over, we don't have to worry about taking trips for the rest of this European season. So that's the target for tomorrow. But we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is that trophy that we have to be taking aim at. And I think so far this season, we have been lining everything up far better than previous seasons. there's always work-ons, and I feel we didn't have those work-ons in previous years because we were steamrolling everyone until we couldn't steamroll them. And by the time we figured it out, it was a bit too late. So I think this season is being built better. I think we are working through it better. I think the squad rotation is better, and I feel momentum is there. If we can keep a big score on this Racing team, which is there, I do feel there's a big score to be had tomorrow. Then we have to start looking at that big trophy and not be afraid of that success. Not that we're afraid of it, but not to be afraid to speak about it.
Yeah, it actually helps that we're actually getting all the matches this season. We've had two COVID ravaged seasons in Europe, and there's we've been kind of the last 16 was kind of just taped together based on made up results and stuff like that. So this is an actual campaign where we played all our matches. We've gotten I think we've got a lot of it motivation from that as well, and they want to get the maximum wins they can to make the biggest statement to the rest of the competition that we're going to compete in those final stages. Well, listen, we're moving on to our prediction portion now, where we put our heads in the box. So listen, since we're talking about Leinster Racing 92, why don't we start with that?
I think I locked it in already, but I said Leinster plus 15.
Okay, yeah, the bookies are going 24, and I usually try to be conservative with this, but I'm just thinking they've shown so many times again and again that they can just switch on from the start. They've gotten off to such great starts in all their matches now. I don't think it's going to be any different on Saturday. If they can get on the scoreboard early, I think Racing, that's when Racing are going to start to be thinking, well, Jesus, we're playing La Rochelle next week. Do we really want to worry too much about that? Worry too much about this result? So I think that could play a factor. So I'll be hoping they beat that. But not, I don't really care by how much once they get the points and the seeding, like you say, and the path to all the way stay in Dublin for the rest of the knockouts in it. So, okay, so we'll move on to the other provinces now for predictions. What do you make of Ulster v Sale?
I actually was impressed with Ulster last week. It was a tough game to watch, more rain than we've had here, but they showed the big Leroy D. They showed that they're there to fight for each other. As we said, they brought Madigan in, a little bit of experience, and they started rolling. I have them +3. I think I locked it in before you send the reminder. So yeah, I'm hopeful that it's them +3. And we're starting to see this turnaround for the season. Good for Marty Moore, but I think they're starting to move again.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people have been talking the format of the competition, how, if you just win one game, you can qualify for the last 16. But you could also say a positive of the competition is you can win one game and still make it to the last 16, because Ulster's results would have put them out in previous seasons. But it makes this game competitive, and it should be a really big crowd at the Kingspan. It'd be their only home crowd at the Kingspan in these pool stages, and they'll be really motivated to get behind them. Okay, so that moves us on to Connacht, who travel to Newcastle.
Yeah, I wish it was at home. The role Connacht, how many times have Connacht scored 61 points in their entire existence? So I think they're on a roll. I do think they'll. Yeah, let's go for it. Connacht by 5.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying as well. They got a real boost during the week when Bristol Bears got fined 5 points, so that moved them much more in contention. So they have a really good shout of getting themselves a home path in the knockouts as well. That just leaves us with the match that's between former champions on Sunday. It's Toulouse hosting Munster.
Yep, and Carberry's going to be starting. Casey beside him. He's going to have quick ball flung at him. Whether he's going to catch it or not is a separate issue, but they're going to move fast. Munster on a roll. It's going to be tough. I don't think they'll win, but I don't think they're going to get hammered. So I think it's less than 5 in terms of a loss. They leave with a bonus point, I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you. But the bookies have Toulouse by 16 in this one. I think that's a bit much. I mean, Toulouse are, of course, always take this competition seriously. So you expect a good performance to them, but Munster, it's particular in these situations, if their backs are even a little bit against the wall, then in Europe, they just come up no matter what kind of form they're in. So I'm expecting that to be a lot closer. Okay, now speaking of predictions, as I said earlier, we're going to be running a competition throughout the Six Nations in association with the Fanzo app. It's known as the Guinness Pint Predictor. There will be weekly prizes for top scorers, but basically everyone who plays can win a free pint for themselves from each of the 15 matches. We'll give you more details when we launch during the week, so just keep an eye on the main site for details. Right, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks to Keego for joining me for another preview show. We hope to have you on again soon.
Cheers. Stay warm out there.
And to the viewers and listeners, be sure to check out the links for his latest gigs. You'll find them in the program notes. And for Saturday's match, why not join the conversation on Mastodon throughout? Then maybe head on over to the Facebook page at Full Time and leave your thoughts there. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.